Okay, I'm ready to start. Welcome back. For many of you that are watching this series, perhaps you're wondering if that was it. It's actually, that was just a recap of my life, kind of. And so I put it in episodes. I'll be getting into some stories. I'll be going back. So if you're watching this series, if you haven't yet subscribed, you can. And we put it in a playlist. It's under podcasts. And I'll be adding to this episode after episode as we move forward as a way of tracking my history and tracking what I'm doing next in regards to my activism, the channel that I started here several months ago. So this will be a way of tracking some of my ideas, some of my visions, and I'll be sharing that with you guys each step of the way. So sometimes, I don't know about you, but now it was just the other day, if you haven't had a chance to watch MJ in Context, the new channel, the young guy, he's out of Massachusetts, if I said that right, living out of his car, kicked out of home. And I think of him, and I think of how he was talking about his mind. And when I left the Jehovah's Witness religion, it was similar to his mind. He says every day he's writing, he's getting up at 3 a.m, he's writing and writing and writing, and it feels like something is pushing you. At least that's what it was for me. And when I was talking to him, for the first time here, I'm talking to someone else that's just come out and how they felt, how they're writing, and now they're creating videos. And it seems like something's pushing us. I don't know, it could be the Holy Spirit. That's what he was talking about. I don't know what pushes a person to do what they do. These are questions that I always ask myself. Why am I in this journey, and what direction I'm taking? When I think of being a Jehovah's Witness all those years, it was like being in the Truman's Show. Remember Jim Carrey starred in the Truman Show? It was a dome. He lived in this city, and it's like there's eyes all over the place. You feel like you're all alone, kind of, but you're not. It seems like you have friends, but those friends stab you in the back, and those friends will report you, bring you up. Like the one friend I talked about in one of my videos up north, he's using Anthony Robbins, and sure enough, he deals with that. I'm no longer an MS, but I knew that's why. That was part of the reason why. And but these guys stab you in the back. They're your friend in front of you, and then they stab you in the back in more ways than one. So you wonder, like in the Truman Show, we're in the Jehovah's Witness Watchtower organization, and we have a few questions, and we can only go so far. It's a dome. We live in a dome, and we're bound. We're bound to this dome by bound volumes after bound volumes after bound volumes of watchtowers. And when it came time to splitting, there was all these boxes in the basement, all these watchtower bound volumes from years and years and years of a life. And my ex went that way, I went this way. We split everything. She had first dibs. She pulled the U-Haul in and took what she wanted out of the house. But she left all of these bound volumes, all of this crap. So I had all this stuff. Didn't know what I was going to do with it. I kept it in the boxes. I wasn't going to put it back on shelves because I wasn't going back. There's no way in God's green earth I was going back to that religion. So New Year's Eve, after I had left, 2012 I had left, and that was the year my dad passed away. And of course, my dad didn't believe in religions or anything, so I gave his funeral talk. And I just gave a slideshow. I never used any scriptures. I just talked about his life's journey. And I told the audience what my dad called God. My dad would pick up the soil and let it run through his fingers, and he says, that's a miracle. That's, to me, where God is from. And that's what I told the audience. And they thought it was one of the best funeral talks they'd heard. there was two, an elder and a ministerial servant that came. They thought I should have used the outline from the watchtower, and I said, why? To me, it doesn't make sense to a guy that hated the watchtower his whole life. Why the hell would I use the watchtower's outline? And that was the last time I really seen those two guys. They, that's a Jehovah's Witness friend. That's what they do. They just walk away from you at your dad's funeral. So that was the year I left, 2012. I never went back. My dad passed and went through a divorce. I had all these bound volumes, so I just burnt them in the fire pit. I have a big bonfire, and I just burnt them, throw bound volume after bound volume, and fed the fire all night with it. And drank a bottle of rum, of course. That's what any ExJw does. I notice a lot of ExJws have kept their books, and you can sell them on eBay, and now I realize there's a value in that stuff. Didn't realize it at the time. To me, it was junk. It was bound volumes. I no longer wanted to be bound by those volumes. And that's for 30 years of my life, I was bound to those volumes while I attended the watchtower. Because elder meeting after elder meeting, they'd pull out those watchtower volumes, and they treated them like God's word. They treated those volumes like they were like part of the Bible. And that's why I say now on my channel, that's what Watchtower is. Watchtower equals God in that organization. And so I wanted to be released of man's indoctrination. And I really didn't burn my Bible. I kept my Bible. But, I burnt all the watchtowers. They're all garbage. I even kept a new Bible. In fact, one of the neighbor witnesses came by one time, and I bought a Bible off him, a brand new New World Translation. It's still in the plastic. I have it. I use it on my presentations. It's still in the plastic. Because I had another one, and it's all online anyways. I didn't need all those bound volumes. So that's my first release. That's what I did. I released myself of that spiritistic, idol-worshipping, bound volumes that bound us to the watchtower, bound us to those 9 men. I realize it more and more. Like, I realize this clear today. At the time, I just realized I wanted out. I didn't want to be bound by those watchtowers at the time. But, I didn't undo all the records in my head, of course. I talk about that, and we have chatted about that. And it takes a bit of work. And I think now that we have this ExJw community online and getting into it here, having a live, once a week we host a live on Tuesdays. So we quit the Saturday one. It was just a bit too much. And it opens up some spots for some others, so that there's a community. Everyone kind of goes online and watches everyone's programs. Everyone has really good programs. And I didn't realize that until actually just recently, more so than ever. And then the other night we were talking to MJ, and MJ really opened my eyes up to a few things as a young man, and in his 30s, really my son's age, and it's but two different people. Here's a guy that worked his way out, was pioneering. Family kicked him out, abused, CSA, all those things. And when I look at that, and he's living in his car and he's smiling. And I look at my situation is actually pretty peachy. So I have nothing to complain about, really. And I think, but what I find, like MJ, I find that my mind is always buzzing. And my mind's always been like that from day one. It's just that when I was in the watchtower, I was bound. I was always bouncing off the shields. And there was eyes everywhere. It's like cameras everywhere. Every elder, every person, everyone's going to report you if you speak out. So you know what I used to do? I used to go right to the source, right to the elders, and tell them exactly what was on my mind, and let them digest it and come back with an answer. I was pioneering. I would always use the line that this is a line I got out in service. I'd always use that, but it was a lot of my own thoughts. And I would throw this out to, but I kept bouncing off these shields. It's in the watchtower. Go do your. So I do my research, and you'd just be bouncing off shields without going outside of the watchtower. Everything else is demonized. Everything, it's like the Truman Show. You couldn't go across the bridge. It's bad. That's, and eventually he gets out, right? Eventually we all get out. So what's next for us? Well, I got rid of everything that bound me because I knew that it wasn't God, anything to do with God. This was not the truth. I was lied to. I realized that later on. And that was when I started writing the book. That was in 2022, because that was just last year. I started writing that 7th book, Getting Out of the Watchtower. And so I will be sharing it on this channel. I'm going to share all my books on this channel. I think I'm just going to grow this channel, or this podcast, and it'll just be part of the journey. So what's next? Well, for me, it was a shipwreck. My dad died. I went through a divorce, and my kids were already on their own. My daughter came to visit me later and then demonized us. That's when I met my good wife. She was out at the farm that one day. We hadn't really got together, but she was just out there. I went dancing that one time, and then 2 weeks later she came out. And that was a weekend my daughter came out, and my good wife is really good with the animals, with horses, and she'd go out and talk to the horses. There's one horse I could never catch the horse, and my energy was just out there, right? I was just all over the place, exploding from coming out of the watchtower. A lot of anger, going through divorces and things like that, trying to piece your life together. But here she is, she's as calm and as cool as collect as can be. And to be good around animals, you have to be like that. Especially horses. Horses sense you. And you can tell someone that's calmed down when the horses come to you. And that's the way it was. My wife would talk to, well, she's my wife now. Then she was just a friend. But she would talk to the horses. And my daughter goes away and then says, oh, you guys are demonized. You can talk to the animals, like Jehovah's Witnesses, right? This is Jehovah's Witness programming. And I'm to blame because I brought my daughter up like that. So if my daughter's watching, it is what it is. I hope you wake up, and I hope that you reflect on this and have a good chuckle, because we do too. And that's what it is. It's just understanding that the Watchtower has us programmed to such a degree that we think everything's wicked. We think everything's demonized. We're looking for demons in everything. And in fact, my ex-wife, we went out to the farm, and she didn't want to be at the farm. And that's why she's part of the reason she split. But, she had a Jehovah's Witness friend over staying in the house, and they heard something in the basement, a rustling noise. Well, pretty soon, no one was sleeping in the house. Everyone was out in campers and in tents, and the house was demonized. They were sure the house was demonized. This went on for a few days. I wasn't sure either, because I am raised in this frickin' Truman Show. And that's all it is. It's a Truman Show. You're bound by bound volumes, bound by a dome, caged in, and eyes everywhere, right? So they think it's demonized. I think it's, and this is how things start, right? Well, my good friend comes out, and he's an ExJw by this time. Everyone talks to him. He comes out, and he has no problem staying in the house. So he stays in the house. We all have breakfast outside, camping, around the yard, and because we had a few over. And he comes out, and we're all having breakfast. Well, so is the house demonized? Is the house demonized? And he started laughing. He says, you guys, you Jehovah's Witnesses, shame on you guys. Everything's demonized, eh? There was mice running around the basement, and they'd rustle, and they'd running in and out of a box or something. He was telling us the whole mouse story, and he actually laid on the couch in the basement watching the mice. There's a few mice, so we had to put some mouse traps in. Or get a cat. We got a cat. Demonized. So shame on Jehovah's Witnesses, demonizing everything. It's just sad. And so that's part of it. My good wife, she brought all the antiques in. The Jehovah's Witnesses send all the antiques out. They want to throw them all away because they're all demonized. My good wife brings them all in. We don't have issues. There's no issues. This is a record that is put into all of our brains from those bound volumes. It's not from the Bible. And these bound volumes put all these records of demonizing into all the people's heads, and they believe it. And that's the sad thing. That's what we're hoping will stop by doing our channels and talking about these experiences. So, I'll go back and chat more on this program about some of my experiences with Jehovah's Witnesses, the 2 witness rules in elders meetings. Once I challenged a whole town, a whole congregation, because I was a bit of, I think, a shit disturber. I don't know. There was something in me that wanted to stick up for the person that was getting beaten down. And there's so many, I think after all my elder experiences and having them stab me in the back and screw me in the back and screw my family up to a point that it's not repairable. That's what happened, really. They meddle in your business, elders. And that's the training. It's not that these elders are bad people, and if you're an elder out there, don't be ashamed. It's really the 9 men, the cult leaders. That's who you have to blame. And I think that's where I've gotten to now in this channel, is it's not about the people that screwed me over, because they were just following their elders' books for the most part. They broke rules when it came to drinking alcohol, all of them. And they're all culpable. They're all in bed together. And it's no wonder I could never be one. I'd never qualify, because I'd always be a shit disturber in the elders meetings, I think. And I was. Because I would go to the elders. I'd have a young guy coming to me, Tyler or something, working on tiling people's houses, right? He lives in an apartment, and him and his wife and kid going to the hall. Kind of new. And next thing you know, these bloody elders are taking advantage of his skills. One pioneer elder had him out at his house, tiling his house for free. Then another elder got involved, and he's running a business, wanting him to do favors. And so we'd meet, and he'd tell me this, and I said, that's enough of that. And I actually went to one of the elders, the pioneer elder anyways, that I pioneered with. I told him straight out, I said, what are you doing? Taking advantage of these young brothers. I said, that's not very Christ-like. And I think he quit. But, these elders are problems because they think they're above the rest. And this is the problem I see in these congregations, the Watchtower congregations. Probably all of them, all religions. But as soon as they're an elder, they think they're something else. And they think they're irreprehensible is the word. And they're not. They're humans. They bleed the same. They breathe the same. We're all similar. In fact, if you're an elder, if you're a Watchtower elder, you're a narcissist, because you believe you're something that you're not. You're a Watchtower narcissist, and I'll say that right out, because I have so much experience with elders, narcissists, narcissistic elders, all of them. Every single elder I've met. So if you're an elder out there, don't take offense. Use this as an opportunity to look inwards and see where you're narcissistic. We run channels on our JW Night Talk. We talk about the brain. We talk about cognitive dissonance. And this is what's next for an ExJw, is fixing ourselves, fixing our brains, fixing the damage that the Watchtower put us in, the bound volumes, to undo all of those bound volumes that we bind our heads with. It's all false. It's all lies. These are idol-worshipping men. Everyone's worshipping men in the Watchtower. So, like MJ said the other night, you release yourself of this stuff, and it's just like a flood of information starts coming into your mind. So he's journaling. I wrote a bunch of books, so they tried to demonize me over these. And what does the word demonizing really mean? My wife talked to me this morning about this. She says it means nothing. It's like apostate. It's like a cult. These are just words. They use these words, and they build them up, and they use them like a club. And they just beat you over the head with this club of demonizing. You're demonized. You're demonized. You're wicked. The world's wicked. And that is the Watchtower. That's why we have to stop it. And that's why there's so many of us on this side of the fence working against this organization, because of its violent shunning practices and using these words and programming a mass amount of people. Slow programming, very slow programming. So all of us on the outside, we have come to learn about this. And when I think of what's next for this community, I think we need rehabilitation, all of us. We need a lot of rehabilitation. I think there's got to be a rehabilitation center that Watchtower pays for, because they have to be held accountable for all the damage they've done to people. And it's going to be a lot. So this is part of the crippling effect. I think we have to keep knocking at that Watchtower brick by brick. We can knock the doctrine down overnight. That's an easy one. But right now, people are in it. They're going to be flocking out. They're going to need places to go. And they need to understand that this whole truth thing was a facade. It was a game to control people. And Rutherford was smart. The Watchtower is smart. They use it. They keep using the same stuff over and over again, and they keep making up new rules. And so this is easily exposed at our end. So as we move forward in this channel, we're going to be talking more about this. What's next for an ExJw? I think we have to get involved. I think we have what we would call a certificate of honor. If you got out of the Watchtower, you have a badge of honor. Okay, whatever they want to throw at you, apostate, demonized, whatever, let them do it. We are ExJws. We got out of it, and we have a badge of honor. One of the hardest cults to get out of is this one. And the indoctrination, the shunning is unlike any of the other cults. The Mormons, they don't shun to this degree. The Catholics, none of them. The shunning is severe. And maybe the Unification Church, the Moonies, they do it to that degree. And they're held accountable. Jehovah's Witnesses in Japan are put on the same level as the Unification Church. Pretty bad cult. So I believe this is one of the biggest bad cults in the world. And it's subtle. And you've seen my story, how easy it is to get sucked in and to be in there. And once you're sucked in, it's hard to get out. It's a struggle. It's like drowning and drowning and trying to get to the top until you finally walk away. And you feel lighter, especially when you get rid of those bound volumes. Those bound volumes just bind you for life. Just get rid of them. Burn them. In my opinion, burn them. But you might want to sell them on eBay. They could be worth something. But get them out of your home. That's my opinion. I don't want bound volumes around my place. Anything to do with that old religion, I got rid of. And all I use is what I have, a Bible, a couple Bibles. And I can use that on this channel. Now, one of the things I'm thinking what's next for ExJw, for my channel anyways, is I do need to collaborate. And I think if MJ's watching, I think he might be the guy. He has a phenomenal video ability. And I'm thinking Frank, Ann, and Lee, if you're watching, you might be the guy to help. But I want to build a video as if we're going to Supreme Court of the world. I think Supreme Court Canada. If you look at the Ganan video, where he lied in the Supreme Court in Canada, it's all over Avoid JW. You can go there and get the details on it. I watched a 3-hour video of that guy lying in our country. And I talked to my good wife. I don't want to go to court. I did file a RCMP complaint against my whole situation. Filed that with Canada. They sent it locally here. It's gotten received. But that stuff can take a long time, if it even goes anywhere. But we'll see what happens. Who knows? But I don't really want to go to Supreme Court. I would if I was invited, but I'm not going to hire a lawyer or do any of that stuff and waste the rest of my life in court. But I'll tell you what would be fun. I think what would be fun as a community is that we stage a Supreme Court. We work together at it. And all the channels that work together, all the channels publicize it. They have a copy, they send it out on their channels and get viewers. The goal is to get all the viewers in the world, right? With our community, with as much power. So I think if we collaborate, work together, and build a court case, maybe a 3-hour court case, maybe have a series. Us ExJws taking the Watchtower to court, Supreme Court of the world. And what would we say? How would we do it? I have a whole pile of ideas. But I think it would be something to share with emails, behind the scenes with some creators. And if you guys are out there and you have ideas, and especially if you're a lawyer or in the legal business or something, and you can help, I think we could make this a lot of fun. And it's so easy. What would you do if you had the chance to take the Watchtower, to take those 9 men to court and have those 9 men subpoenaed, and they have to stand up in front of the world and say that they're not the Supreme Council? Because we know they're going to do that. And in Supreme Court, we're going to do exactly what Australia did. We're going to nail them all, and they're going to have to tell their story. And they're going to have to lie, and we're going to nail them on when it comes to theocratic strategic warfare. And we're going to simply pull it over to the 7 most detestable things in the Bible, and one is lying. And there's nowhere in the Bible where it says to lie to cover up crimes. You know, did Jehovah give you a vision to tell a strategic strategy warfare? You know, you make these guys look like fools, which they are in Supreme Court of the world. That's kind of the shit that goes on in my head. So I don't know about you guys, but enough is enough. Like, enough is enough. Now, we have that petition. It's at the bottom of every one of our videos. If you're Canadian, we need signatures so we can actually get this into Parliament. And we show the Be Free thing. We support the Be Free. Everyone that can should get to Be Free. Be Free is going to be a phenomenal time, a phenomenal place to really have a voice. And because it's Halloween, all the PMOs can go. And this is going to make a message. And the news will be there, and they'll be saying, you know what, the reason they had to do it was because of this, this, and this. And all the news that'll be covering this, they'll be reading the Be Free site. And it's all there. And they'll be bringing this out on the news. And it's going to hit the world. This is the biggest event for the ExJw community. So if you're not yet involved, if you're not yet planning it, and if you're a creator and you can promote it, let's really push this hard. That's what I think is next for an ExJw, is to get involved. Because we have a badge of honor. We're certified. We've certified ourselves out of that organization somehow. We all have a different story, but we have a badge of honor. And now's the time to use it, to raise our voice. You know, we're not going to go down and do anything violent. We're against violence. We're against things that are unloving. We're more like Jesus. Jesus wasn't for religion. He wasn't for any of that. And people argue that yes, he was. But you know what? The way I see the Bible is it's been stitched together. You got this old Jewish Testament, this old book about Jehovah, and Jehovah is a God that would destroy women and children. Jehovah is a violent God. How many people did Satan destroy in the Bible? Satan's a god in the Old Testament. Satan was called up to heaven and said, yeah, go test Job out. And so I think, but I don't think anybody was allowed to die. I think all the animals and stuff died. And that's what Satan did. But Jehovah, he caused a lot of death. But anyways, that's a whole nother discussion. It's an interesting one. But you got that Old Testament stitched together, Jesus stitched together, and then this New Testament, the Apostle Paul stitched together to make a church. Well, if you go in between there and look at Jesus, Jesus says, I'm the way. He just had a way. And I choose to follow the way. Love. That's it. That's it. It's that easy. You don't screw your neighbors over. You don't go into your neighbor's house when your neighbor's not home with a bottle of whiskey. You don't do shit like that these Jehovah's Witnesses do, these elders, these ministerial servants that still haven't come clean. And they're still out there, hopefully watching this video, because they know there's a lot of shit, a lot of bullshit, like my dad said, and they can take that bullshit and they can put it back in their cases, because that's where it belongs. And if it comes on this farm, it gets burnt. We want nothing to do with it. And that's where I'm at. That's what's next for most of us ExJws. We want nothing to do with it. But for a lot of us, we are somewhat pissed, I guess, some of us. Or some of us just want to see justice. Or something's pushing a lot of us. What is it? I don't know. I'm just in here, in the flow, where it's like we're down a river. and we're flowing with the stream. We see things happening every day. The biggest headlines out there is Jehovah's Witnesses. What a dirty, rotten, CSA hiding, pedophilia, shunning religion, this blood sacrificing religion this really is. You talk about blood sacrifice, this religion takes people's blood through the blood doctrine. And they're trying to change it, and they now, how do they admit it? That they cost all of these lives. You see, it's a hard thing to change. Now, you see, they have to change that if they want to stay as a religion, because the world's shutting them down. It's clear. How do they change that? They try to sneak it through. You see, us ExJws, we're not allowing that to happen. We're nailing them on every little thing. And we're going to keep doing that, because they're a lying, deceitful, rotten bunch, those 9 members. And they've deceived us for all those years. And I think they know. I think they know. And I think they've got to be brought to justice. That's why I think it'd be cool to do a video of Supreme Court of the world. So that's the end of this video. That's what's next for me. I'm not done. I've just started. And yeah, this I'm going to do everything within my power to make sure that people don't get involved in this cult, because it's destructive. It's not true. It appears good. It sucks you in through many different ways. I told my story, how it sucked me in. And it's hard to get out, and your family's just wrecked getting out. All your friends, they don't see you no more. And it's destructive. Okay, folks, well, sorry to give you that news, but to me, that's good news. We have something to do. We have some projects to work on. Some of the communities, MJ asked about collaborating, getting involved. I think this is something that some of these young guys that are really good at visual arts on the computers, that really grasp the cult experience, what the cult is doing to people, like MJ threw in that he's grasping the cognitive dissonance. You know, all the young people are understanding this. The young people are more educated, I think, than us when we came out of school. I think there's just more education now. And it's really easy to see how the bite model fits these cults, how they are cults. And we got to talk about cult is not a bad thing. It's simply what it is. It's a cult. And anytime you worship 9 men through those bound volumes, it's a cult. It's the Truman Show. It's fake. It's not real. Okay, folks, until next time, you know the line. Bye for now. I gotta go.